One of the most important concepts to understand when working with computers is the system for organizing, storing, and locating your files and applications. In this context, the term file refers to a single item, such as a word processing document, a photo, a video clip, a song, and so on. Applications are the programs that you run on your computer, which often use, interact with, or create the files stored on your computer. Another term you'll frequently hear is folder. A folder is sometimes referred to as a directory, but I think folder makes more sense because it's easy to understand the concept of storing files within folders. In fact, everything you interact with on your computer is stored in a hierarchy of folders. You can have folders nested within other folders and files stored throughout those nested folders. If it helps, you can think of your hard drive as one big master folder, or even a filing cabinet, where all the other folders are stored, accessed, and arranged. Let's take a look at an example of a file and folder hierarchy. So let's say I have this folder on my computer called Bills, in which I want to store scanned versions of my utility and credit card bills. I'm going to double-click this folder to open it. And inside this folder, you can see I only have 3 files, but they're clearly labeled electric, heat, and water, with the month's name in the file. Now, as I receive more bills, I could just continue to save them in this folder called Bills, but as you can probably imagine, my folder would get pretty cluttered and disorganized fast. This is an example of when it's highly advantageous to create nested folders or subfolders. Here in Windows 10, I'm going to roll my mouse over this button here at the top of the window, and I can see a tip that tells me this is the New Folder button. I'm going to click that, and that creates a new folder called New Folder, and notice the name is already highlighted, meaning it's selected, and I can just start typing to rename this folder. I'll call it Water, and I'll press Enter. Now I'll create another new folder, and I'll call it Electric. Now another way to create a new folder is to right-click, meaning to click the button on the right side of the mouse, which opens up this contextual menu. And from here I can go to New, and from there select Folder. And I'll call this folder Heat. And now I've created 3 nested or subfolders within my main Bills folder. So with these folders created, I can now easily organize my various bills by dragging them into the appropriate folders. So Water will go into the Water folder, Heat goes into the Heat folder, and Electric goes into the Electric folder. So if you understood that, you understand the essential principle behind the folders and file system of your operating system. Now, you don't absolutely have to organize your folders. Your computer can keep track of files wherever you place them, but the question is whether you can. It's not really that difficult when there are only 3 files to organize, but how about 300 or 3000? Really, I'd say organizing your files is an essential skill and habit to get into. Now, I also want to discuss the different ways you can view the files within a folder. Here in Windows 10, you have a View tab at the top of the window. Clicking this tab reveals several views or ways of looking at the contents of the current folder. If you roll your mouse over any of these options in the Layout section, you can see a preview of what that view looks like. Although in this case, the menu I'm working with kind of covers a lot of them up. So you can always click these options to see what the view looks like. If you don't like the view, or don't find it useful, just pick another one. Now the view you choose is entirely up to you. This doesn't change the contents of the folders in any way, just how they're displayed. Personally, I prefer the Details view, so I can not only see the file names, but also information like the date the item was last modified, its size, and so on. Or you might prefer one of the various sizes of icon views. Again, it's completely your choice which view you prefer. But note that while you're in the Details view, you can click on these headers to sort your lists of files and folders. This can be especially useful if you want to, say, display all the most recently modified files in order. Or if you want to list them alphabetically again, just click Name. Clicking the header twice reverses the order of that list. So now it's in reverse alphabetical order, and if I click that one more time, it goes back to alphabetical order. Alright, so that's an overview of the thinking behind the file and folder hierarchy, and the various ways you can view the contents of your folders.